But obviously, and I wanted to kind of comment specifically on this case and what it means for kind of the broader anti-racist movements, and the broader kind of mobilizations that we're seeing around criminal justice. You know, obviously, it's not a secret. I'm a prison abolitionist. I don't think that the criminal justice system, that policing and prisons, are an effective or a humane way of dealing with and preventing social harm. I think it actually tends to create more social harm than what it solves or prevents. So naturally, in many ways, I don't see this as justice being served, because justice being served, as Maurice mentioned, would be George Floyd being alive today. It would be Black and brown people being able to exist in their lives without fear that something similar could be done to them. And, you know, within hours of this verdict, we had yet another instance of a 16-year-old girl, Micaiah Bryant, getting shot dead by a police officer. So clearly justice is not actually happening. I'm not even sure if it's even as far as accountability. But what it is, I think, and the reason why this is so powerful is because it is recognition. And that is small, but it's very powerful, because for so many years in the UK and in the US, instances of Black people being killed by the police or being harmed or being mistreated by the police either hasn't been going to trial, or it went to trial and police were found to do nothing wrong. And the message that sends is that violence experienced by Black and brown people at the hands of the police is not considered violence. It is merely necessary force used against the population that have to be contained, and, you know, who are treated with contempt by our system. And this conviction was merely recognition that violence occurred, that what happened was not justified. It should not be run of the mill, that it was violence and it was harm. And that's why, even as a prison abolitionist, even as someone who can see how this problem is not going to be solved in the courts, I cried when I heard that verdict. It was incredibly emotional. It was incredibly powerful, because that recognition, while so simple, is the first step towards something more profound. And it took so long to get there. You know, having this kind of act recognized as violence, even just one time. And I think that Adam and Maurice are completely right that in many ways this was a calculation to sort of sacrifice one officer to save the institution. But this moment was not handed down benevolently by the courts. It was fought for tooth and nail. It took a lot of work and organizing to just get this case in the courts. And, you know, not to mention the years of organizing that have happened for generations now, to kind of get to the position where we realize that this is something that needs to be taken seriously. But for all the reasons that I mentioned before, it is very important that we don't let this demobilize us in our demands for transforming our criminal justice system, for abolishing our criminal justice system and replacing it with a system that is focused on care and accountability. Because just prosecuting police isn't going to change a system that is predicated upon detaining and disenfranchising and repressing Black and brown working class people overall. So I hope that kind of explains a little bit why we can be like super critical of actually the implications of this, and be modest about our understanding of what this means, whilst also understanding why it was so powerful and why it had which for many of us, maybe we didn't even predict that it would have such a powerful implication, but might go a bit of a way to explain why it did.